Like and subscribe right now, or you're going to have bad luck for the rest of the week.
The end of the world has been a myth carried on for hundreds of years, but recently everything seems, well, like it really is Armageddon. From the screaming global warming, disease epidemics, lethal AI, and depletion of our natural resources, it is becoming hard to predict the fate of humans on this planet. However, there are many other natural disasters which are waiting to happen and could wipe off millions in an instant. If you think global warming is the biggest threat to us, you will be surprised by number 1. Number 10, the Cascadian Big One. While you still feel sorry for the next Atlantis, let's draw your attention to the Cascadian subduction fault line that runs 1,000 kilometers from North Carolina to Vancouver Island in Canada. The line is supposed to serve as the boundary between the tectonic plates in these regions, but somehow it has been stuck for more than 3 centuries now, building up stress. Once unleashed, this stress might strike as a megaquake, with 1 in 3 chance of it happening in the next 50 years. When a shakeout scenario was done to model the devastation that could result from this megaquake, several California buildings would be leveled. A severe gas fire would wipe many sectors in Los Angeles, and more than 50,000 would be injured, alongside $200 billion in damages. What's worse, some experts still believe the report to be an understatement, because for one, it didn't account for the resulting tsunami that would be estimated to rise 100 feet, leaving over 200 million people without food or water. Number 9, the Yellowstone supervolcano. Experts had earlier believed that the potentially destructive 5-meter deep reservoir of magma sitting right under the Yellowstone National Park in Nevada would take almost a million years before wreaking its havoc. However, a recent study suggests we might only have a few hundred years before the next eruption. Though we can't know for sure because these numbers are only at their best educated guesses. But while you must ascertain how close we are to its eruption before making any assertions, it's equally vital to get informed with facts about this supervolcano. The first of which states that it can sink Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and Idaho in volcanic materials, 1,000 times deadlier than the 1980 Mount St. Helens eruption. Number 8. The United States hurricanes. You might think that U.S. citizens are not strangers to major hurricanes, so they must have learned to cope with them. But the problem here is that the interval between the past ones is so vast that people forget the losses they've suffered. And with that, they fail to take the preempted warning seriously, giving them less time to evacuate properly. This time, however, escaping would be difficult even with a slight delay. According to weather researchers from Colorado State University, 20 named storms, 4 of which are major hurricanes, set for the United States coastline. And these storms are predicted to strike with an impact probability that's greater than any recorded in the last century. What's worse, all these would happen while the country is still trying to recover from the significant losses suffered from the coronavirus pandemic. As a result, we're looking at a catastrophic combo of disasters happening in the wrong place at the very wrong time. And some of them, like Hurricane Isaias, have begun in North Carolina. Number 7. The disappearance of the Tuvalu. Suppose this is not your first time hearing of Tuvalu. In that case, you probably know it's a small island nation found midway between Hawaii and Australia as the 4th smallest country globally, and that the people living there are rich in culture. Most likely you've also seen them in the 2008 Beijing ceremony, but beneath those smiles, most citizens on the island battle with a lack of exploitable resources and tropical cyclones. And aside from that, Tuvalu is also at the brink of a natural disaster, ready to wipe them off the face of Earth's surface. Being just a few meters above sea level, with the highest points not more than 5 meters, Tuvalu is faced with a significant environmental crisis resulting from global warming that sends more salt water into the land. And in about 50 to 100 years or less, experts say Tuvalu could be under the ocean and the next Atlantis. Though natives believe that the inevitable exodus would be sooner than expected, as they lost most of their farmlands to the sea with little access to fresh water. Number 6. Solar storm. In 2012, Earth very nearly missed being hit by a massive solar storm, which would have been the most powerful seen in more than 150 years. The last significant incident took place in 1859, which created really powerful geomagnetic storms and resulted in global telegraph lines sparking, which set fire to several telegraph offices. Loads of people have speculated that, according to them, the July 2012 storm was in every aspect about as strong as the 1959 event. The only difference was that it missed. We would still be picking up the pieces if it had hit. A similar storm would be majorly devastating and would end up wiping out the internet and almost every communications and potentially cause damages that would amount to trillions of dollars. Number 5. The Helena Slump. Next on this list, we have one of the most powerful dangers of all. We are referring to the possible collapse of the southern portion of the Kilauea volcano on the Big Island of Hawaii. Referred to as the Helena Slump, this could throw 12,000 cubic kilometers of rock into the Pacific Oceans, generating a mega tsunami that would swirl all around the Pacific Ocean and reach the western side of North America in a couple of hours, completely wiping out the entire coastline community. There is proof that a similar collapse at the Mauna Loa around 120,000 years ago resulted in a tsunami with a height of more than 400 meters. Even in 1975, the movement of the Helena Slump caused a smaller yet destructive tsunami that reached California. Keeping in mind that the slump is continuously active and moving, it might only require a jolt from an earthquake to set in motion this tragic chain of events. Number 4. The North Sea Tsunami. The North Sea might seem like an improbable place for a catastrophic tsunami to occur, but climate change has led to worries that the submarine landscape in the region might lead to exactly this. Scientists have suggested that around 6,000 years ago, a drastic rise in sea levels led to the changing climate and a rapid melting of ice, which added pressure on the submarine glacial deposits at the edge of the Norwegian continental shelf, thus destabilizing them and resulting in a 300-kilometer-long landslide. This led to a tsunami that went up to the heights of 20 meters. If Earth ever experiences a rapidly changing climate again and goes through a melting of Greenland or West Antarctica ice sheets, a similar event could take place again in the present time. It could affect the coastal populations of Scotland and Norway and maybe even London. Number 3. Asteroid. There have always been various conspiracies and theories surrounding the extinction of dinosaurs, but whatever people might say, loads of scientists say that the culprit behind this extinction was an asteroid that struck the Earth. If it were to hit us today, it would have similarly tragic consequences. According to a few reports, in 2028, an asteroid 1997 XF11 will come incredibly close to Earth, but will miss the planet. If something was to happen and it changed its course, and it did hit Earth, what you would experience is a mile-wide asteroid striking the planet's surface at about 30,000 miles per hour. An asteroid that big traveling at such a speed has the same power as that of a 1,000,000 megaton bomb. Such an asteroid could likely wipe out most of life on this planet. Number 2. AI overload. Not really a natural disaster, but we humans have regulated and normalized the use of robots and technology so much that it literally seems natural. We dreamt of flying cars and robot people in this decade, and in reality, artificial intelligence, AI, has become part of everyday life. AI is doing a lot of good and will continue to provide many benefits to our modern world, but there will inevitably be negative consequences along with the good. Since humans build AI algorithms, they can have built-in bias, and intentional or inadvertently introducing them into the algorithm. If AI algorithms are built with a bias, or the data in the training sets they are given to learn from is biased, they will produce results that are biased. This reality could lead to some consequences. AI programmed to do something dangerous, as is the case with autonomous weapon programs to kill, is one way AI can pose risks. The sooner we begin to contemplate what those might be, the better equipped we will be to mitigate and manage the dangers. Number 1. An extraterrestrial threat. Perhaps the biggest threat to the modern world is posed by our own star. Periodically, the sun emits a solar flare, an intense cloud of energetic photons and particles with the energy of millions of hydrogen bombs exploding at once. Once released, these clouds arrive on Earth's upper atmosphere within a day or two, and in many cases, most ordinary people on Earth would be none the wiser. However, if intense enough, a solar storm could devastate electrical systems, both in orbit, for example satellites, and on the ground, as the energetic electrons cause a charge to build up. One of the largest known events was in 1921, which knocked out the US telegraph service. But scientists have calculated that should a similar event happen in today's technology-reliant society, it could knock out many satellite systems, disable global communications, the internet, and the global positioning system. Chaos could follow. Which one of these disasters do you think will cause the most destruction? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.